Welcome to the Futurist Society podcast, where we delve into the latest advancements in technology, science, and culture. From discussions on the latest breakthroughs in AI, biotechnology, and space exploration, the Futurist Society is your window into all of the awesomeness that the future holds. Get ready to be informed and inspired as we consider the positive impact of emerging technologies on humanity. Without further ado, welcome your host, Dr. Awesome.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Futurist Society. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Awesome, and we are broadcasting from the present and talking about the future today with Dr. Subodha Kumar, who is a distinguished professor in Philadelphia and has a real long and wide history of building the future. Dr. Kumar, why don't you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about all the work that you've done? Specifically, I think the most things that I feel like are the most important are your work in artificial intelligence and robotics, but I'll let you fill that in. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I'm Subodha Kumar. I'm a faculty at the Fox School of Business, Temple University. I'm the Paul R. Anderson Distinguished Chair Professor. And I also am the founding director for the Center for Business Analytics and Disruptive Technologies. And through this center, essentially, we work with a variety of companies in different domains, a lot in healthcare, and finance, but also in retailing, aerospace, manufacturing, and so on. And we try to see where are the pain points and how AI-based solutions can help us solve those problems. And that could be from improving the efficiency in healthcare, solving some of the maybe the biases in the results, or creating better solution for financial customers and those kind of things. But we also look at how the whole AI applications can be improved to create more unbiased solutions or make sure that there is the solutions are explainable and there is a responsibility involved in that. We also try to look at what is going to be the impact of AI on, for example, workforce or labor market, and what kind of policies could be designed according to that would work better. So that's all about me, but I work on a variety of domain, not just AI. AI just one part of my whole work, but I work on a lot of social media, digital commerce, blockchain, etc.
Yeah, I think that the idea of disruptive technology is something that's very wide and very vast. And I like how you have an interest in all these different fields. Now, when people think about disruptive technology, I feel like there's two camps of people. People look at it and like myself, who look at the glass half full. And then there's people who look at it as the glass half empty, that they worry about all the downstream effects of disruptive technology. I wonder, overwhelmingly, is it uniformly positive, or is it most often negative from someone like yourself that looks at all of these different things that have happened?
So I will say it's always a mixed bag with any other technology. When we think of all the disruptive technologies and AI, there are going to be a lot of good things, but not everything good. And there's a potential of being bad. But I will say mostly good. Mostly good. How we can increase the part of the good and reduce the part of the bad lies on us. When I say us, it includes all the companies, how they are using it, all the companies who are developing the solutions, policymakers, and as well as the society, what we are ready to do. So I will say it's mostly good. There's some tinge of bad, but if we don't have a controlled way to look at it, then the bad part may go up. Otherwise, mostly I'm optimistic, given that what we are able to do that we could not do earlier.
I'd like to think that it's always going to be a mixed bag, but it always tends to err on the side of good. I like to think about that Martin Luther King quote that, the arc of history is long, but it bends towards justice. I think that especially in regards to technology, the arc of history is long, but it always tends to end up better for the human race. Like when you think about the printing press, you could point to all of the negative books that were written, but overwhelmingly, it's been just a phenomenal thing for humanity to have that technology. And I think that that's something that I really want people to think about when they think about AI and all these things that are coming down the pipeline. When you are evaluating all the different people that have an interest in kind of guiding us towards the beneficial effects of technology, who do you think has the most responsibility when it comes to these kinds of things?
The responsibility lies on everybody, I know. But the more responsibility lies on the companies who are creating these solutions, first of all, because these companies really know that how they are creating the solutions, what could be the impacts. But even for them, it is kind of hard to think about the real implications unless the solutions start coming. But they have a lot of responsibility to think about it carefully. And second, I think the biggest piece is the policy makers. Now, for policymakers, the challenge right now is that they don't even know what is going to work and what is not going to work. Mm-hmm. What will the solution look like? So how to regulate it, right? Mm-hmm. If you do too much regulations, that's also very bad, actually, because then that will curb the growth. But these are the two stakeholders for which the most responsibility lies. The impact will be a lot on the individuals, but they can't do much at this point on control what should be done and what should not be done, right? In terms of the controlling part, the more responsibility on the solution developer as well as the policy makers.
Yeah. I mean, is there precedent for this kind of stuff? Because I feel like technology is always happening. New inventions and new disruptions are always happening. Is there a precedent for policymakers and for businesses to kind of gear the technology in the right direction? Because that's one of the things that I think a lot of people worry about, is that we're entering into this period of change that's happening so rapidly, that's exponential. And it's hard to keep up with that kind of change. Like, for example, you mentioned social media. Social media was this thing that was introduced to us as a technology, and a lot of people thought it was really great. And now it's only now that we realize that there are some negative effects of it. And that's when the policymakers are stepping in. So other than social media, is there a precedent for these kind of actors to intervene in these kind of things?
Oh, yes. I mean, it has been happening for quite some time. When the first time bicycles were introduced, there was a protest. And why there was a protest? Because bicycles were disturbing the horse carts, the horses on those horse carts. And horse cart was the key mode of transportation. So a lot of people felt that this kind of newer technology, which are not going to stay for very long anyway, they are fad. They are disturbing our main mode of communication, which is going to stay there for quite a while, right? So people were not happy. Fast forward, when calculators came, there was a big protest from teachers. In fact, they told it should be completely banned by the policymakers because it will make our students dumber. There will be a lot of bad uses of calculators, and it will impact the learning process. Even when World Wide Web came, there was a lot of concerns about how it should be used. It should be totally regulated. Not anybody can have a web page and so on, for very similar concerns, because there will be chat rooms and so on. Well, before social media started, social media had more concern, more than policymakers. Even users were not sure why somebody would go and post their pictures for general public, right? I mean, this was a very remote concept, and nobody thought that this is ever going to work. But there are a lot of questions raised for policymakers as well, that how they can make sure that it is not misused, especially for children and so on. Mm-hmm. And those debates keep going on. Now, do we see regulations? Yes. The European Union came with a lot of privacy regulations, more than any other location. But even the US and China, and India, they all have their own set of regulations. All large economies have their own set of regulations. What is different here, though, is there have been petitions from very top people like Elon Musk and several other like co-founders of Apple and all. They appealed to government to take some action, and in less than a month, the White House came out and said that, yes, we are thinking on doing something. So the reaction has been a lot stronger from both sides, from the the industry, from a lot of experts, as well as the policy makers. So this is certainly different. We have a lot of precedents, but it is different. And the reason I will tell you why it is different, because the impacts may be a lot bigger. Why it would be a lot bigger? Because once we start putting things more and more on these AI-based solutions, it will start becoming more and more black holes. And 20 years down the line, we will be using these systems without knowing what they are doing, how they are doing, why they are doing. And that is the concern people have. And second biggest concern is that it may lead a society to wrong direction, in the sense it can give wrong results, which can take lives or can create a lot of social problems. And we will not know at that point how to solve it. So people are worried about that. Okay. And these are not invalid concerns. They are quite valid concerns, but some of them are sometimes blown out of proportion. So we need to be careful on both directions, not letting it go, but at the same time, we should not be making knee-jerk reactions.
Yeah, I think that AI is certainly the most popular topic when it comes to futurism these days. It's something that has the most potential for disruption. Let's just focus on that for a second. When you're talking about the regulations that are happening, but from the government and things like that, what are those regulations looking like? Like when you said that the European Union has put out some regulations for privacy, have they already come up with regulations for AI? And if so, what does that mean for the technology?
Yeah, so European Union always have AI Act, and they already have a draft for the newer one. The biggest pieces in these regulations are, number one, the transparency. So basically, what they are asking these companies to tell their users that how the results are created, what kind of data they used, what kind of analysis has been done for coming up with these kind of solutions, so that they can clearly articulate that, your results may be totally off, and this could be implications. So they want companies to be very clear on giving the complete details of how they came up with the result and what could be the implications of the wrong results, okay, which is missing. For example, if you go to ChatGPT, it will have a disclaimer that our results may be wrong. But if you go and say that, could I have a cancer? It can say, yes, I believe you have a cancer. It can give you those kind of results, right? And that can have a wrong implications or financial investment. So they want to be very careful. Now, how at least ChatGPT has reacted to some of these things, for many of the results, they have stopped giving results now. So they will say, no, I cannot give you results because I don't know much, right? Now, that is a problem here. So, and that's what people thought that it would be one of the reactions, that they will not give result. We don't want that to happen. But again, we also want these regulations to ensure there is a transparency. Second piece is accountability. Now, that is a tricky one. So what if it gives me a wrong result and I take wrong decision based on that? Then who is responsible for that, right? And these regulations are asking all these companies to take more accountability. And this accountability and transparency has always been the biggest pieces in the regulations, how they will be written. All of these regulations say that we want to save our digital citizens and the users of these technologies, right? How the granular it will be, that is a very, very challenging thing, okay? And whatever you do, whatever regulations we write, there will be pluses and minuses on that. There's no perfect regulation on these things. So every country will go different. My hunch at this point is that European Union, like in previous situations, will go harsher on the regulations. They will have more restrictions, which will create some limitations on what can be done in Europe. US will be, and China could be on the other hand. China always works more on the side of making sure that it is good for the country, not necessarily for the technology. And US will be somewhere in the middle of that. But all of us are struggling what it will look like right now. But these two pieces will be the key: transparency and accountability in any of these regulations.
Yeah, I like the fact that there are intelligent people like yourself, like Elon Musk, like the other titans of industry that are tuned into this enough to call attention to it. Because I think if either one of those were working independently, if like it was just the business that was responsible for this kind of thing, obviously the interest of the business is to make money on it, and we've seen with social media that can lead to issues with downstream effects, because the incentive is there to gain money as opposed to protect the citizens or the users. And then on the other hand, you have this government actor that, like you said, is not as well versed in the technology. And so it takes a little bit of time to catch up with that. I think we need people like yourself, people like the titans of industry that we see that are kind of chiming in on this. And not just for AI, I think for a lot of these different disruptive technologies. So there's so many different things that are happening. We really need people who are experts in the field to call attention to these things. I just wanted to talk about just like one component of AI for just a second. So you've highlighted medicine, which obviously is my field, and I feel like you're not going to get rid of the idea of humans having influence on the way that patients are treated. AI might be a tool in that, but it's not going to be replacing an expert, at least anytime soon. From what I've talked to other people about, they might provide like a list of 5 diagnoses, and the person who's an expert chooses one, but ultimately the accountability is on the medical provider. I worry more about consumer technology, like full self-driving, right? Like an artificial intelligence that drives for yourself. It would be so easy to, let the machine take over. And that's when we start getting into more accountability issues, right? I feel like if I'm in the car and I'm letting the car take over and we get into an accident, yeah, I mean, the accountability is on me, but there's a certain amount of accountability that's on the AI as well. Where do you see that kind of, shaking out? Like, do you think that ultimately the responsibility is going to be on the driver as well? Or do you think that there's going to be some sort of culpability for the AI?
There's some very important point. First of all, you're absolutely right. We are not replacing physicians or many other jobs in our lifetime. I don't see that happening or much later, and which is for good, right? But at the same time, there are a lot of tasks which are either repetitive or can be good advisory to physicians, right? Mm-hmm. You gave a very good example of giving multiple diagnoses. But even there, the accountability piece comes into pictures. And there was a recent study done where they wanted to see if this generative AI provides a good solution for breast cancer treatment. Mm-hmm. Now, what happens if an expert goes and look at that? Expert can easily say that, oh, these are nonsense results, and this is a great, I will follow up on that. But if a general users look at those results, and if you tell I have 94% accuracy, that can be extremely misleading. Mm-hmm. So as long as the results of this AI is analyzed by an expert, and then decision is made, I think we are mostly okay. Mm-hmm. The problem is coming is that when this is directly pushed to the users. So even in healthcare, that is a serious problem right now. When this AI-based thing creates solutions, how do we restrict it only to the experts and not the general users can go and see? It's like going on Google and searching based on your diagnosis whether I have cancer. Everybody's doctor these days, or Google doctor, what we can call them, right? Mm-hmm. So, but that's a problem, right? The consequences can be huge. So a lot of accountability goes in every domain on these companies, that how you can restrict this. And even though you have 94% accuracy and you tell this to the users, I don't think that's enough. If you go and say, I have 94% accurate that you have a cancer and you're going to die in 6 months, even if they were totally wrong, the patient will be quite nervous, right? And we don't want that to happen. Okay. On the other hand, if you give this result to an oncologist, they can say, no, this doesn't make any sense, or I will follow up on that. So that's the first part. Second, you're asking about, the driverless vehicles and all. See, if you look at all the analysis last 10 years, we would have expected by 2020, we will have a fully driving car, the way the technology was growing. But we don't have this yet. And there are several reasons, technical issues and all around it. But one of the big issue is accountability, right? Now, humans also make mistakes. So, and if you take any even conservative study, it can clearly show that the number of or percentage of accidents will go down substantially if we move to fully autonomous vehicles. But the real problem comes here, that most of the AI system lack two things. One is the common sense, and one is the intuitive solution, right? So some of the solutions which can be quite intuitive for you. For example, you're going on the road and you see that another car is coming, crossing by. But as a human, we can gauge that, oh, this guy will cross by, a little bit slow down and keep going on. That is extremely difficult for the machines, extremely difficult. So they will put a hard brake there because they cannot judge that much that what would happen, right? And sometimes human may be wrong in making that decision, right? But machines cannot make common sense decisions. So what will happen? Let's take the car example. These autonomous vehicles will make accidents in the case where a human could easily avoid it. But they will save accidents in many, many cases where human could not have done much, even expert driver, right? So one can always argue that overall will be good, but we are less forgetful of machines than of ourselves. Right? Mm-hmm. So even those one or two mistakes where human could easily save it can take the technology back. And that's exactly what is happening right now. Mm-hmm. So one of the challenges we are facing right now is, for example, we call it a trolley problem, started at MIT, and it has been experimented, right? You might have heard about that. Mm-hmm. Autonomous vehicles, that's a big challenge, right? So if you're going on the road and you have to save lives of yourself or 6 people walking on the road, what would you do? Or what if there are kids in the car? Then what do you do? If there's an older person on the road, what do you do? Now, if you go back and look back and ask this question to a human, not everybody will answer same way, right? Mm-hmm. Some people will say, I will take this. Some will say other, right? Mm-hmm. So how do you now design that in the algorithm? One solution could be that I give this option to the users. They can tweak this setting. Like in Tesla right now, you can decide how much distance you want to keep from the car in front of you, right? And they give you a range of that. All are in the legal range, but still they will give you the range, right? They can tell you that on the local road, I can drive 5 miles above the speed limit. They give you that option, right? You can say, well, breaking rules there, they should not be. But if they don't, then there's a problem. So how much tweaking should be done where users can go and tweak? That is the question. And second, once that happens, then accountability, of course, if the accident happened because of that tweaking, then it comes on the driver. But if it happens because of algorithm, then it goes on the car. So we will have a lot of lawsuits where, to define the accountability, it happened because of the user level thing or the machine level thing. But even reaching to that point, it seems very challenging because we cannot define the law. The technology is not good enough to take it complete control. Still, drivers have to be in control. And how many years it will take is very unclear at this point. So it may be okay on the highways where we may have dedicated lane for autonomous vehicles. See, if all cars are driverless, I think we will be quite okay because algorithms can talk to each other and they will be fine. The problem is the transient phase. Mm-hmm. Now, how to cross the transient phase, we don't know. So in the long run, more and more accountability will shift towards the algorithms and cars. But in the short run, a lot will be, actually almost everything will be on the users. You cannot be off hook by saying that algorithm did it because you are supposed to be in control, right? So I think that's where we are right now. That's why the Tesla had to change the name of their car. They don't call it fully autonomous and all. And other companies had to do the same. So this whole accountability, what you're referring to, will shift with time. Right now, more towards the individuals. and it will keep shifting towards the machine. And hopefully in our lifetime, we will be in a situation that it will be fully on the machine. Let's hope so.
Yeah, I hope so. I mean, I always say that that's the technology coming down the pipeline that I'm most excited about. The other one is consumer robotics, which I do want to talk with you about because I know you have a background in that. But specifically full self-driving, I have a 30-minute to 45-minute commute every single day, and that would free up the ability for me to do something that I'm interested in that 30 to 45 minutes. I know you live in the Northeast as well. I mean, it's something that's almost ubiquitous around here, that you have to be driving a certain amount of time to get to work. And that in and of itself, I think is going to be almost like a Chat GPT kind of moment. Like when Chat GPT got spread around the national consciousness, it was just like a wildfire. Everybody was like, have you seen this thing? Have you seen this thing? I think the same thing is going to happen with full self-driving because it's something that everybody experiences. Everybody has a commute. I mean, at least most of the people that I know have a commute. So maybe it's a biased set, but I think most people will have a really great time with the ability to free up that time from their day. Let's talk a little bit about consumer robotics for a second, because I know you have a background in robotics as well. How far are we from having robots do menial tasks like, folding our clothes or washing our dishes? Like, what are some technologies that you're seeing that really gives you hope for that?
So actually, we have made a very good progress on that. So we have robotic systems since industrial revolution, at least till 50s. We have a lot of robots used in the manufacturing and logistic companies. But their task was pretty well defined. They can do the same task repeatedly very well, right? And you can write algorithms where they can even be dynamic, but they can be dynamic only in the way that I go, in place of going from 1 to 2, I will go from 1 to 3. And that's what my patent is about, right? So they can do this all very well for quite some time. No problem with that. But what we are trying to do here is that folding clothes, bringing water for me, and can I have humanoid robots which can give me massage and also give me water and also possibly solve a problem for me, right? So there are some very good examples. So FedEx, at some of their sorting facility, they have started using sorting or picker robots, they call it. And what these robots do, and it's very nice if the videos are online, they basically pick the items and put it on the conveyor belt. Now, why is then this is a common task for any e-commerce company. Amazon has it, Walmart has it, and it's mostly done by human. It is considered a very tough task to do. The problem is that because different items can have a different shape, they can be spread around at different locations, not all at the same location. That's what robots expected, that everything has to be exactly in the same way. And sometimes they can be in the corner. So they have to find the dimension of it and check for it. We recently implemented for one of the large manufacturing company where they had, this is for the cement industry. They had to carry the cement, but in the place where they put the cement, it has to be inspected that everything is good inside before they can put cement inside. It was done manually, very difficult task. Somebody has to go in. So we have created a AI-based solution which will go inside. So first it will measure where the hole is. That is also done by machine. Then they will decide how many holes are there, what is the dimension of the hole. So how these things work is that first they measure this dimension, then see how I will do according to that. That's how human brain mostly work anyway, right? So we replicate that. So we are seeing more and more of these kind of solutions. How we can replicate these solutions to do multiple things, that's where the challenge is, right? But for doing complex tasks, I think we are there. It can fold clothes for us. It can bring water for us. The challenge part is that can we make it like human brain, which can fold tasks and bring water very easily without much training. Right now, the training has to be done for each individual task. So whatever humanoid robot we are hearing right now, they are trained for certain tasks and they will do those tasks nice. And we keep increasing their task more and more and more. So that is already happening. Complex task, I don't think is that big a problem. We saw revolution with Roomba-like things coming 15 years back, right? And they could sense the wall and all. So we have come very far from that, and we have pretty advanced solutions with that. But the challenge would still lie on how we can have a general purpose intelligence. There's a lot of research going on in that. We are not there yet, but we have some good breakthroughs in that. So in next 5 to 10 years timeline, we will start seeing more and more general purpose, where at least, if not everything, they can do a lot of things at the same time.
Yeah. And, honestly, I think I and most consumers would be even okay with a lot of like their mundane tasks being taken care of by a single robot, similar to the Roomba. I was an early adopter of the Roomba, and I hate vacuuming. It's something that it's not interesting to me. It's something that I feel like is very easily done by the Roomba. So why not have this robot around? And it's something that happens on a daily basis, especially like if you have a kid like I do, like it's, stuff accumulates. And so you turn the Roomba on and every day you come home to a clean floor. I think that that's a great opportunity for that company to make a difference. I think that a lot of these mundane tasks like folding clothes, washing dishes, those types of things that we do on a daily basis, but are just kind of menial tasks, are really ripe for innovation. I think that what I wonder is which one is going to come first, like for example, like you're saying, washing dishes is kind of like a complicated task because there's different types of dishes, there's different things that you have to do. Is that going to come first, like a single robot that does that, or is it going to be a general robot that just kind of does everything? I'm not sure. Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah. So no, we will see a lot of single uses robots and single task robots that will come, and those single task robots will be for simpler tasks first. Okay, and then we will start seeing. So you will have two parallel growth. One will be that there will be multiple task robots which will be doing lot of simpler things. Okay, and then in the parallel we will have development of robots which can do just one task but a complex task. In fact, doing the first one is a lot easier. But once we understand that it can do one simple task, converting it to 5 simple tasks is not that difficult, because you just have to keep adding skills to that. So that will certainly come faster than the complex ones. Okay, because that is easier. But both are going on in parallel right now. People are looking at combining more and more simple tasks to the robots. Like, similar thing happened with Roomba. Earlier it could only do vacuuming. Now it can do more stuff, right? Mopping and all those things. So I think we will see more of that happening. But in parallel, people are trying to crack. Another thing that is important to understand is that which complex task requires this kind of solution. Consumers are not ready for all kind of solution, right? There should be a market for that as well. So another part of research is going on, which ones consumers really want to get rid of, and still it's very complex. And consumers here could be businesses, right? Maybe the logistic companies or the warehouses they may want, or individual consumers. So we will see both of that, and we will start seeing growth of lot of such solutions coming in the market. Some of them will have higher adoption than the others. And once those become clear to companies, they will invest more on that. But we will see that in parallel, but more so of multiple simpler tasks than doing one complex task. That's always a holy grail of all this AI industry. That how do you do that?
Yeah. I think lessening the amount of menial tasks and making our life easier and more productive, I think is obviously the holy grail, just like you're saying. Which companies, specifically in the robotics industry, do you feel like are the leaders? Is it just the only one that I'm familiar with is Boston Dynamics, but for consumer electronics, is there anything else that's out there that you think is really exciting to you?
So this industry is so interesting. The one side is there are a lot of startups who are coming with the great algorithms, and the another one is the companies which are very good. They have to manufacture the devices, right? And they're not necessarily the same company. So what we are seeing right now, there are a lot of combinations of these kind of companies getting together. So companies like NVIDIA, they are very good in their algorithm side, right? They have all the chips which they can do. They are getting into even hardware side of it. So this is emerging as one of the big players that can do. But there are other companies. iRobot is trying to do, which is the Roomba one. They are trying to create more solutions. That's another big player in the robotic industry. This Zurich-based company ABB. They are actually one of the big players in the market right now. There's another company, it's a Chinese company called Media Group. They are developing MIDEA. They are getting into both algorithm and hardware side. But in the future, and there are a few more, Yamaha has also jumped into this market, and they are one of the big players in that. In manufacturing industry, there's a company called FANUC, FANUC, and they do a lot of this numerical control machines and all. So they are another big player in the market. But what we will see is that a lot of collaborations will happen between the startups who are developing good algorithms and some of these hardware manufacturers, and you will see some of the newer companies coming in the domain. So don't be surprised if we start seeing a lot of the companies which we never heard of who will come. But a lot of vertical-based solutions will also come. Some companies will focus more on, like I told, ABB or Rockwell or FANUC. They will focus more on the industrial robots, and that's what they are trying to do. And companies like iRobot and all, they are trying to focus more on the consumer level robots. And then we will see the growth of, and in fact, in addition, some of the large companies like Amazon and all, they are also thinking if they can get their homegrown solutions because they have a large warehouse problem and all. So they will also work on that. So it is coming from many different directions that will happen right now in next few years.
Do you see any obstacles or hurdles for consumer electronics, specifically in the robotics space?
See, so in the consumer electronics, there are two types. One is more for the general purpose uses, like what we saw with Roomba kind of solutions, right? So we are having solutions coming for basic tasks, giving us glass of water or giving us massage. I don't see much problem with that. Those kind of regulatory issues in that. More and more regulatory issues are coming where they are making decisions on behalf of us, which can have bigger implications, like driverless cars, right? That's where we will see regulatory hurdles. Otherwise, the consumer solution is more about technology and adoption. Are people ready to pay that kind of money, right? That's another thing that is critical right now. So once we resolve that, I think companies, because very capital intensive kind of market. So unless they know that there will be buyers, many companies are hesitant in investing that kind of money. So that is I think, biggest challenge is the adoption, even more so than technology right now. That what kind of consumer solution customers are ready to pay for. Once that is resolved, I think we'll be fine. And regulations will be okay with many of those kind of consumer-based solutions.
Gotcha. Well, listen, it was so nice talking with you. I have 3 questions that I always do at the end with all of my guests, and they're not always the same, but just as we're talking, we provided enough information that I'm very curious about your thoughts on just a couple different things. I'd love to talk to you forever. It sounds like you have a really great grasp on where we're headed as a species, but unfortunately, we're close to the end of our time. So for me personally, what I always want to know is where people like yourself get inspiration from. For me, it's science fiction. I always love, reading about robots from Isaac Asimov. I like the utopian vision of Star Trek. I like all the interesting technologies that are coming out from comic books. And, when I think of artificial intelligence, I always think about the vision, from the Avengers, and how he was a force for good as opposed to bad. What are some things that you draw inspiration from? And it doesn't need to be science fiction, but what kind of gives you passion for what you're doing?
Yeah, mine is little different. Most of my inspirations come from when I see the problems and I feel that, this should not exist, right? And that kind of makes me very annoyed. And that's where I think of the solutions. And this could be either in the healthcare, manufacturing. I can see that there is no reason for us to be this inefficient. And that's when I see how we can do. I can tell you, we recently got an NIH grant with some doctors in Philadelphia. And we are working on pulse oximeter, which I'm sure you know of. And we had been told, and then later on when we did a study, we find that the readings are inaccurate for certain skin colors because all the testing was done on one. So the thing is that how to fix the problem. Now you cannot have different machines for all skin colors, but then we can use AI for that. So what we are doing in that grant is that we have a sensor which takes the skin color and then run the algorithm and see how the reading should be modified. Right? I think those kind of things really fascinates me and motivate me to do find solutions. Another area I'm working, actually this one I'm working with the MIT team. We got you may know there's a Jamil clinic at MIT. And they have given us a grant on studying the personalized cancer treatment. Again, we are trying to see that where this motivation came from is that when I was going through talking to a lot of oncologists, they say that there are set rules that how the patients are treated. But given that we have done so much advancement in personalized recommendations and personalized or customized solutions, why can't we do that in the healthcare domain, right? So that motivates me a lot. Similar examples I can give you from manufacturing or retailing, where I see inefficiency in the system or inaccuracies, and then I see that why don't I use my AI-based knowledge to do that? And that has always been my inspiration and motivation to do all these things.
Cool. Well, kind of leading into that, where do you see us in 5-10 years? Like, what are you most excited about in the for the future for you and your family? For me, I look at, just like we had talked about, the advent of artificial intelligence and robotics making my life easier. I think that, like, when I look at it, I look at it as like almost like a concierge service of, being picked up by my artificial intelligence car, being driven to my work. Artificial intelligence helps me with all of my, notes and everything that I need to do. That's a menial task. And when I come home, I don't need to clean anything because the robots are doing it. That to me is a future that I get really excited about. Where do you see us in 5-10 years, and what gets excited about that?
Well, I have a few. First is, of course, the car thing. I think we all are fascinated with that. We want all to be driven by these cars. And I actually drive that partially autonomous myself right now. And I find it very useful even with this, right? Means I can drive for long, like 70, 80 miles on highway. It is very good. So I think like you, I'm certainly looking forward to that. And I hope this happens sooner than later. So that's number one. But another thing that I'm really looking forward to is that where we can, if I go to see a doctor, or if I go to see my dealer for my car repair, a lot of those things can be done by machines. I shouldn't be doing those kind of things, right? And we can make the process a lot faster. So how we can utilize those don't need to be very fancy solutions, but certainly those could be something. And third, as I earlier mentioned, in a lot of my home chores maybe can be done by these machines. I'm looking forward to that, and I hope that happens soon too.
Yeah, me too. So last question, and this is a really general question. I mean, you're kind of an expert in just disruptive technology in general. I feel like we were very heavy on AI and we're very heavy on robotics, which is two of your areas of expertise. What other disruptive technologies have you come across that you're really excited about? Like, for example, I spoke with a futurist a few days ago, and he was saying for him, the two that he's really excited about are longevity, the idea of living longer, and then the food revolution. He thinks that we're going to be having more nutritious, more exciting food available to us in the future. But anyway, my point is that if as a blank slate, what are some other things that maybe not might be as well known, but are still things that interest you that you think that are going to be disruptive?
See, there are three, in terms of the technology perspective, I will say three, and then I'll talk about some of the solutions, as you mentioned. Three things I will say: blockchains, metaverse, and virtual reality. I think these three things will really change the way we operate. Now, what kind of solutions they would provide everywhere? For example, think of food supply chain. Right now, and you mentioned it partly, that healthier food, right? One of the challenge we have right now, we really don't know how the food is created for us, what we get in our hands, right? How it is processed, what it is done. We take a lot of things for granted. The best we get, it is organic or it's not organic, right? But blockchains with their food supply chain, they have a potential. They can show us the video of each step and they can tell us. That can change the consumer behavior for good in many ways, okay? And it can force many of these companies to act in ethical way as well as in more efficient way, okay? I think that's the one thing that will happen that we are not seeing right now. And I think it has a potential to do that. Second, things like metaverse have potential to provide the real-time in-person kind of solutions for which we need to either fly or drive right now, and makes it very inefficient for many of us. So I think we are going to see a lot of those kind of solutions, which is a mix of mixed reality and metaverse. So I think both of these have potential to provide a different kind of solutions that we don't see. And why I'm saying different kind without notifying, because we don't even know. When World Wide Web was created in 90s, nobody thought that we will have something called social media. We had no clue about that, right? Even the leaders like Bill Gates and all were not sure. If you watch his interviews, he didn't know what will happen. So the kind of solutions we will create, we don't even know about it right now, okay? But it will create something which will change our lives, mostly for good, with some challenges in very different ways. So this technology certainly we have to look forward to, and as businesses have to see what they can do, and individuals, all the society have to see how they can leverage on that. But I will end with two things that we need to look at: two sides of AI. One is two parts of AI. One is the ethics side and bias side. And they're not the same thing. Ethics will mainly deal with something which is not illegal, but still I should not be doing it. How we can create AI systems that work in an ethical manner. And on the bias side, how do we make sure that the data is dynamic enough and unbiased algorithms can train these systems so that we get unbiased result going forward. If we don't control that now, we'll be in trouble. So as long as we do that, I think we'll see a lot of nice disruptions happening for good.
Yeah. I really like that term, nice disruptions, because I think that there's a lot to be excited about. And, if we can look at those things, then we can really have an optimistic version of the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Kumar, for joining us. And for all the listeners, thanks for listening. We will see you guys again in the future. Have a good one, everybody.
We appreciate you taking part in today's episode. Take this chance to reimagine a better future by joining a community of futurists who strive for a remarkable world. Be a part of this growing network and contribute to making the world a more positive place. Visit thefuturistsociety.net and subscribe to the show so you don't miss a drop of hopeful futurism.